Hello everyone, and today we're going to be doing something a little bit different. As you can tell, I am back in the basement with my setup, but I've changed the way the layout of the video works instead of me just having a simple face cam, because the purpose of this video is not going to use that. Today we are going to be looking at this video by Christopher, a channel called Christopher, named World War II Every Day with Army Sizes. Now this video is very interesting, and basically, it's a 13-minute video. It goes through World War II and shows the map of Europe as it was changing as of who annexed the regions, as who owned what land at the time. And this is every single day from September 1st of 1939 all the way until Hitler was killed on April 30th of 1945. Now, I need to mention, first of all, why the setup's different. The setup is different, as you can see. You're probably wondering why I'm in the corner, the bottom corner of the screen. Well, it's because for the purposes of this specific thing, it's going to show a map. And if I were to do a face cam of the whole thing, it would cover up some parts of the map. So I'm sorry about that. So there was some black screens on the side, so I would subscribe and ring the bell if you don't forget. Please do so, because it'd be nice of you, and thank you. And trust me, and smash the like button. Trust me, you will not break a finger. I will send in a replacement finger if you break your finger by smashing the like button too hard. Remember, only smash it once, though, because if you smash it twice, it's unsmashed. Okay? So smash that like button. And also, I just decided to put Hitler above me, because Hitler is the main... He's really the main character of World War II, honestly. And when somebody says World War II, if I had to explain one person in World War II, it's Hitler. Now, I am not going to be biased towards the Axis or Allied sides. I'm going to be a strictly third-person minded today. I'm just going to be going strictly factual on what's happening. Now, I'm not going to be saying Hitler was a bad guy. I mean, he obviously was, but that's a subjective thing. This is going to be strictly the historical meaning of it. I do not support... not going out and saying that I support anything that happened during this period. We're just here to show the video. So, we start off, I'm going to be pausing it a bunch. So basically it shows the land here. So, before we get into this, I just want to show you what the bases are. So right here, you can see my mouse, which is very useful. Right here in the gray, we have the Axis powers. Now, Axis powers, there were two main sides in World War II. A little bit of background information on what's happening here. You had the Axis powers and the Allied powers. The Allies, or the Axis, as some people call them. The Axis powers were Hitler's regime. Now, a little bit of background on Hitler. Basically, after the First World War, the German Empire, obviously Germany during the First World War was definitely the best army on the face of the earth at the time. The German Empire falls in 1918, and basically Europe is in a complete depression throughout the 1920s. And I think it's in 1920 that the Nazi Party is founded. Hitler eventually joins that, and then he takes power in 1933, becoming the dictator of Germany. And then he leads his first expedition in Poland in 1939, which starts the Second World War. Now, the Axis powers as well, you have Italy down here, which the dictator of that country is Benito Mussolini. Since there was a huge economic depression in the 1920s and 1930s in Europe, it sparked a lot of dictators to show up. And then over here in Spain, even, we had Francisco Franco, because in 1936, previously, there had been the Spanish Civil War, who overthrew Alfonso XIII. So you have this right here. So the gray is going to be the Axis powers. The blue is going to be the Allied powers. Now, right here at the beginning of the war, all we have is Poland in blue. Now, Germany owns... Hitler has some territory over here in this part of Poland. But this is Poland at the time. And then the red is going to be the communist regime, which is just the Soviet Union. Now, I want to clarify something, because people always call it the Russians. Now, Soviet Union and Russia, some people use it interchangeably. During the Second World War, I just want to get this out of the way, during the Second World War, it was the Soviet Union, okay? During World War I in 1917, you had what was known as the Russian Revolution, which overthrew. Russia had been a monarchy going way back with the Romanov family. And Tsar Nicholas II, the last Russian Tsar, was overthrown in 1917, which gave rise to the new economic form of government, the Communist Party. The Communist Party took over Russia and deposed Tsar Nicholas II, and then I think in January of 1918 they had his entire family executed. So that gave rise to Vladimir Lenin. And in 1922, that's when it became the Soviet Union. And the Soviet Union lasted all the way until 1991 when it became Russia again after the end of the Cold War. But that's not really what this is right now. This is World War II. All right. So the red is the communist, the blue is the Allies, and the Axis powers are gray. So it's got some music with it, and it has this down here. So I don't know how do I get rid of this. Settings. We're starting off this war. We have Hitler when he first invades Poland. That's his idea. What he's going to do to expand the fascist region. Now, obviously, Hitler was part of a hierarchy known as fascism. Now, fascism, for those of you that don't know what fascism is, it basically is the idea that, for those of you that know anything about Hitler, Hitler loved his country, Germany. He was very loyal to Germany, and he wanted it to be the most powerful that it could be. But Hitler did not give jack about the people of Germany. Now, fascism is the belief that the nation matters. The nation itself matters more than the people of the nation. So Hitler wanted to make Germany a world power, which it already was. He wanted to make it the biggest superpower the world has ever seen. And he didn't really care about Germany's citizens, the German citizens. In fact, he tried to make them inferior to himself. So that was how that was. So his first campaign is going to be the attack on Poland, which Poland is to the right, is to the to the east of Germany. Hitler has 1.8 million men ready for this first invasion of Poland. Poland's only got 250,000 who have been mobilized at this point. So as you can see right here, September 1st, 1939, Germany declares war on Poland. Now this is kind of hard to read down here, but I'll do my best. You can see the date up here. I don't know if there's a way I can get rid of this. Like this stuff. But I'd like to see if I could. I don't think I can. Subtitles off. Yeah, whatever. I need subtitles. Yeah, I don't really know. But this September 1st of 1939, that is when Germany declares war on Poland, which starts the Second World War. So Germany has already started its attack on Poland right now. Now they're losing men both sides. Poland has mobilized now. It's got 400,000 troops fighting the Germans, but they don't stand a chance because, okay, now that Germany has officially... Okay, hold on. Before we get to that. Now that Germany has officially been attacking Poland, you can see that Poland's allies over here, the blue, so the allied countries have started to show now. So we have Great Britain up here, and Britain becomes a major force during the later parts of the war, but not really right now in 1939, because we're right now, it's September 11th, 1939, and Germany is wiping out. See, it's only been 10 days, and Hitler has completely almost halved the size of Poland. In 10 days, the Polish army does not stand a chance because, honestly, Poland really wasn't prepared for the German invasion. I mean, honestly. And this really goes to modern times, really. If you think about it, with the Russia-Ukrainian war, which is the official name for the war happening right now, when Vladimir Putin invaded Ukraine. That's kind of what's happening here with Germany when Hitler invades Poland. But Poland doesn't stand a chance. So Poland's allies right now, we have Britain and France over here, allies, and then down here with in Africa we have Egypt over here, and then I think this is countries. This is Angola. I don't really know my African countries, to be honest with you, which is kind of sad. Hold on, guys. I'm gonna figure out what country that is. Morocco. That's Morocco and Algeria down there. Algeria and Morocco are allied right now because they're kind of part of the French and British empires at the time. So France and Britain own those places. Italy's not yet involved, but Italy will join the side with Hitler. Mussolini, Benito Mussolini. So we'll watch this for a little bit here.
In Berlin.
So you can see when Hitler encircles, the Germans had encircled some parts of the Polish, which you'll be able to see plenty times during this video when they do this. So you can see remaining Polish army attempts retreating towards Romania. So the Poland realizes by this point, when we get to September 15th. Now, this battle has only been going on, this campaign that Germany has been setting has been going on for 2 weeks. That's it. 2 weeks. And they've already gobbled up the whole thing. Poland knows they're going to get defeated. And now, the Soviet Union is just chilling over here. They are being run by Joseph Stalin, who's the dictator of them, and he is a strongly communist. Now, the Soviet Union really in 1939 is really the only communist country like on Earth. And they're not really with the Allies per se. They do eventually join the Allies later. They're kind of their own thing at the beginning of the war. But they do not like Hitler. Stalin and Hitler were arch enemies. And they were not cool people either. Or they were not nice people, we'll say. They were, some of them, Hitler was pretty cool, but they were cool to learn about, but not nice people. But anyway, so the remaining Polish troops retreat to Romania, which is down in these countries down here. So the Polish troops start retreating to these areas because they know Hitler's going to defeat them all. So the Soviet Union invades Poland from the east as we get to September 18th of 1939. So just imagine being Poland in that situation. You're already dealing with the Germans on the western side, but then you have the Soviet Union decides to come up. I think Stalin and Hitler signed a pact or something around this time that said we're going to split Poland so the Soviet Union can get that part of it, and then Germany gets this part. Now this is really annoying down here, which I wish we could get rid of this. Anyway.
The Germans.
So that's what happened there. So here's the army sizes. Stalin comes in with about 700,000 men taking out Poland. And by this point, German and Soviet armies link up, blocking Polish escape to Romania. And there we go. Warsaw surrenders, but German troops do not yet enter the city. So by this point, Polish resistance comes to an end, Hitler declaring a desire for peace with Britain and France. So Hitler doesn't really want to fight France and Britain, so he kind of signs a peace gathering with them called the Warsaw. So by the time we get to October 8th of 1939, the Soviet Union and Germany have come together to annex the entirety of Poland. Poland is completely German, is completely Nazi and communist controlled at this point. Poland's out of the game, essentially. British Prime Minister Neville Chamberlain formally declines Hitler's peace offer. So Hitler offers to make peace with Britain and France, and the Prime Minister of Britain at the time in 1939, Neville Chamberlain, he refuses to make peace with Hitler because he was friends with Poland, and seeing what he just did to them, they want to take out Hitler because they don't like him. And the Soviet Union's just chilling for a while. But keep in mind that Soviet Union is not an ally in 1939. Neither is it Axis. So
11 o'clock.
I think that might be Neville Chamberlain talking. I'm not too sure who that is. It's probably Neville Chamberlain though. So Stalin begins demanding finishing territory. So they finished the territory in Poland there. He demanded the Finnish territory by October 12th of 1939.
They were prepared at once.
The portions of Poland are formally inducted into Germany. So these portions, basically, it's just going through how Poland has been officially annexed at this point. Nothing new here.
To withdraw their troops from Poland.
Registration begins in the United Kingdom, which the UK, Britain, to conscript all able-bodied males between the ages of 18 and 23. So Britain's ready to attack Germany. They're getting in. They're ready. Britain is mobilizing their troops, and they begin registering men 18 to 23 years old that are willing to fight. The Allies, because they want to get revenge.
A state of war.
Germany annexes more of the former Polish regions as we get to the end of October, and this is just the beginning, ladies and gentlemen. I wish there was like a death count somewhere. That'd be kind of cool, but trust me, a lot of people have died already.
Would exist between.
So now we're into November of 1939, and Finland rejects the giving land to the Soviet Union. The Soviet Union had offered to buy, or offered to take land from Finland without fighting. They're like, Finland, fine, because Stalin starts to get hungry now because he sees that Hitler's trying to take over, so he decides to get his hands in the party too and try to take over himself. So Stalin and Hitler, it's kind of a war between those two right now. Stalin tells Finland, which is the country up here, he's like, Finland, give us your territory, give us your country, we'll annex it, and if you refuse, we're gonna fight you for it. And Finland, I guess, I don't know if they think they're strong enough to beat the Soviet Union. The Soviet Union have a pretty good freaking army. Not as good as the Germans, I mean, that's 100% sure. But I guess Finland rejects that. And there's some stuff I'm learning here too, because no one talks really about the Scandinavian countries too much. So now once we get to Hitler escapes a bomb blast in the Munich beer hall. So in the Munich beer hall there was an attempted assassination on Hitler in November of 1939. So imagine if that would have killed him that early on in the war. That would have changed things.
You now that no such undertaking has been received.
Alright, here we go. So,
and that consequently
nothing goes on really for November until we get to about this part. Late November, the Soviet Union officially attacks Finland in what would become known as the Winter War. So, World War II and honestly World War I too is just a bunch of countries declaring war on each other. So the Soviet Union launches their attack on Finland. They bring about 275,000 men. Finland's got a 130,000 resistance. And this is known as the Winter War, which happens in late 1939, the winter of 1939, when the Soviet takes over Finland.
At war with Germany.
So the Russian invaders, which is the Soviet, the Russian invaders begin heavy attacks on the Mannerheim line, where the Mannerheim line is right here. So they begin their heavy attacks on Finland up here. Again, Germany's just chilling. This is their territory right now. This is Belgium and the Netherlands right there. But Germany is pretty stand still right now. These are the countries of like that Germany consists of. Poland, then you have Austria right here, and the Rhineland and stuff like that. Czechoslovakia was owned by the Nazis, was a Nazi control by that point. They were pro-Nazi anyway. Hitler didn't really invade them, they just kind of were loyal to him. The Russians suffer severe, I'm trying to read what this says. The Russians suffer severe tactical defeats by the Finnish army. So the Finns were actually, Finland, there's a Finnish, what do you call it? They actually were able to put up quite the resistance at this point. We're actually able to fight off the Soviets for a little bit, but we'll see what happens here in a second. The USSRs expelled from the League of Nations in response to the Soviet invasion of Finland. German propaganda minister Joseph Goebbels makes a radio address reviewing the official Nazi version of the events in 1939. No reader. No predictions were made for 1940 other than saying that the next year will be a hard year and we must be ready for it. So yeah, 1940 is something else. 1939 is just the very beginning of the war. So Soviets were at December 24th. The Soviets are still fighting Finland, trying to annex it right now. So this happens here. So now we're officially into 1940, January of 1940. The Soviet offensive in Finland is halted by several Finnish victories in some battles right here on the border. And you can see now the Finns are outnumbered. The Finnish are outnumbered right now. But they are still kicking the Soviets' butt right now. And the Soviet had, look, Finland has 150,000 men, and the Soviets have 500,000. So I guess Finland, since it's gray, is actually part of the Nazi regime at this point. Finland is fascist, apparently, which I did not know. So that's kind of cool. So this is January 1940. A German plan carrying plans for Fall Gelb crashes in neutral Belgium. Okay, January 11th, 1940. The Soviets are building up their men. Captured documents reveal Hitler's plans for the invasion of the Scandinavia. Scandinavia is these countries up here, Denmark, Norway, and Sweden. And some people consider Finland as well. But Hitler already occupies Finland anyway. So Hitler is planning on invading Norway, Denmark, and Sweden up here. And the captured documents reveal that. So he starts planning that in January of 1940. The postponement of the invasion of France until the spring. So Hitler had planned to invade France, but he postpones that until the spring of 1940 and focuses instead on invading Scandinavia first, because he knows that Denmark and Norway and Sweden do not have good armies. The French had a very good army, especially in World War I. In World War I, France was probably one of the best armies in Europe, maybe the second best next to Germany. So before Germany takes out France, which Hitler's going to try to annex it, and you'll see what happens, he decides to invade the Scandinavian countries first. And obviously Soviet Union and Finland are still going at it up there. And that's really the only fighting that's going on right now. Hitler's just planning right now what's going to happen. So this is still January 1940.
And then Finland.
So the Soviets are driven back into Finland and retaliate with heavy air attacks. So Stalin brings in his air force and starts attacking Finland that way, hoping it's going to work. So now we're into Germany makes their final plans for the invasion of Denmark and Norway as of January 29th of 1940. So Hitler is now mobilizing his troops, getting ready to invade Denmark. And Denmark's right up here, and then Norway's right here, I think. I think this is Norway. This is Sweden. So we'll see what happens here. So now into February. The USSR, which is the Soviet Union, the Soviet Union agrees to supply grain and raw materials to Germany in a new trade treaty. So Stalin's trying to be friends with Germany right now. He's like, okay, Germany, if you're going to invade, you can invade Denmark and stuff, but Finland's ours, and we'll give you materials. And Hitler kind of becomes friends with Stalin for a little bit, but Stalin's going to end up stabbing him in the back later on in the war, and you'll see what happens with that. So at this point, Soviet Union has got 680,000 men on the front line, and then Finland somehow is still hanging on with 140,000. Now, I would not be surprised if Hitler's got troops up in Finland at this point, which he probably does. That's probably how Finland is hanging on for as long as they did. Because if you remember, the Winter War started back in November of 1939, and it's February 1940, and the Soviets are still trying to annex Finland. And as you can see, they have not gotten very far. The Soviet army breaks through the Mannerheim line. The Mannerheim Line, I guess, is the border between the Soviet Union and Finland. The Manstein presents to Hitler his plans for invading France via the Ardennes forest. So that's how he's going to invade France. So he's planning his French invasion, which is one of the most successful invasions for Hitler during World War II. One of the greatest things that he did for his empire. Or if you could even call it that, an empire. I don't really know what you want to call it, but his regime. So the Soviets are 700,000 men strong. The Finnish are actually losing men, but they're still hanging on. The Soviets start attacks on Viipuri, Finland's second largest city. So they attack Viipuri, that city, the second largest city in Finland, hoping that they can make some way in. Now they're actually in the northeastern part of Finland. They're starting to make their way in a little bit. Now the map doesn't zoom in or out or anything, so it's just the same thing over and over again. So now we're into March of 1940. Finland tells the Soviets they will agree to their terms for ending the war. So the Soviets, the Finland, I guess, surrenders at this point. Because they're just losing men, and they don't want to just deal with the downfall, because they know the Soviets, I guess, probably going to kill them. So I guess they surrender to Soviets, and there we go. Finland agrees to peace, giving up significant territory. So this territory right on the line, the Heinlein line, or whatever it was, Heinlein line, I don't know what it was called, but that is now Soviet occupied, communist. Hitler and Mussolini. Hitler and Mussolini meets. Mussolini promises that Italy will enter the war at an opportune moment. So Mussolini is the dictator of Italy at the time, and again he had taken power way back when too, like a decade before. He's also a fascist dictator just like Hitler, but Hitler's a little bit more ambitious and outgoing than Mussolini is. But Mussolini is promising Hitler, because Hitler's like, man, I need help, Mussolini. If I'm going to invade all these countries, I need help. So Mussolini's like, all right, Hitler, we got you, man. I'll be over. I'm just waiting for my moment to come in before I declare war on France or whatever. So Italy becomes Nazi with Germany over time. Britain and France make a formal agreement that neither country will seek a separate peace with Germany. So France and Britain basically promise that they're going to stay. They're going to stay on each other's sides during the rest of the war. They're not going to sign separate peaces with Germany. They're either not going to make peace with Germany, or both of them will. It's not going to be Britain will or France will. It's going to be both or none. And you'll see what happens once we get to June of 1940, because that's when stuff goes down. Here we go. Now World War II has not really come into full swing just yet, because, so again, Hitler, he's got a lot of territory. He controls all of this now against a dictatorship, so he controls all of this. One person controls all of this, and Stalin controls all this, so that's a crap ton. The Soviet wants new territories. Molotov speaks about an unsettled dispute, the question of the Romanian Romanian territories, so Romania right here. They talk about Soviets invading this land down there. Now we're into April 1940. April 7, 1940, that was when this guy died. My great-great-grandfather died. He was shot, not during World War II. It was just, he just got shot in an accident. That was in the United States. Again, the United States is just not even in here yet. That's not until way down the line. And I forgot to mention the Japanese as well. Japan is also on Hitler's side in the Pacific. There's a whole war going on in the Pacific once we get to 1941. That's not even going to be shown here. So the depths on this is strictly European and Northern Africa. I mean, there's wars going on in other part of Africa too. Ethiopia. Mussolini invades Ethiopia, which Ethiopia's got no army. That's all Mussolini did in World War II. If it wasn't for Hitler, he would have got destroyed. But There's a whole war going on in Japan. The Japanese, I don't really want to talk about them too much in this video, but of course it's a large part of World War II and the Axis powers with Hirohito, the emperor of the Japanese Empire at the time. So now Germany takes out Denmark in like a split second. It's like a day or two campaign. It's really crazy. So we're at March 28th of 1940, March 29th, 30th, 31st, April 1st. Well, we're into April. So it's April 8th. April 8th of 1940. The Germany's has 40,000 men taking out Denmark. Denmark, the Danish army is not good. They got 3,000 men. That's it. They get wiped out in literally 2 days. By April 10th, they're wiped out. They're encircled, and then they're allied for a little bit. They are part of the Allies, and now Hitler has started invading in Norway and take them out. So now we're into April 20th. Germany invades Denmark and Norway. So British and French troops start landing in Norway. So Britain and France, they load their troops in Norway to try to help them, but they don't do very well, and Hitler ends up taking them out because they're outnumbered. Allies begin evacuating the Norwegian ports. So at this point, as we get to May 1940, Hitler has completely annexed Norway and Denmark. It only took him a month, and he annexed those two countries. He knew that was going to be a piece of cake. So now he's shifting his mind on France, and that's what he's going to do. But before he invades France, he's going to take out Belgium and the Netherlands too. Okay. So Germany invades France at the Benelux. Winston Churchill becomes Prime Minister of the United Kingdom on the same day that Hitler invades France. So imagine being Winston Churchill and coming into that when your only ally you have left is France, and they're getting invaded by Hitler, or by the Germans, and Winston Churchill has to come in and deal with that. That must be horrible for him. So here we go. We're pretty even right now. Hitler has started his campaign. Okay, Norway's annexed. So Hitler, he takes out, or Belgium and the Netherlands decide to join the Allies to try to fight back. Hitler takes them out. The French troops on this line here, 3.2 million men. Hitler takes everything he's got into this campaign. 3.3 million men. This is the Eastern Front of the Western Front of World War II. Very deadly. This most of the casualties in 1940 take place here. So he's going in, annexes Belgium and the Netherlands. They're gone. The capitulation of the Dutch army is signed.
Fight in France.
That's Winston Churchill, I think, talking.
We shall fight on the
There we go. That's the Netherlands is gone. Belgium's gone. Belgium surrenders to the Germans.
Fight with growing
There we go. Winston Churchill delivers "We shall never surrender" speech. So he's talking to British. We will never surrender. Now Germany has France outnumbered. I don't know what's happening in France. Remember, France did amazing in World War I. Destroyed pretty much everybody. And then World War II happens, and they just...
Confidence and growing strength in the...
France has now dropped 2 million men, and Mussolini sees this as his opening, and decides...
and growing strength in the air.
Mussolini officially brings in 300,000 men, and joins the Axis powers officially, and starts invading France from the southeast. So in the northern part, you have Hitler invading from this area, Germany, and then Italy invades from this area. So France has two separate areas that they're dealing with, and Britain's down here defending them as well, and the remaining, all the allies at this point. So the Norwegian troops, the Danish, Polish troops are all down here. Italy declares war on France and the UK. Hitler's making his move in there, man. He gets deep at this point. It's not going good as we get to June. Paris falls to Hitler. He takes over Paris, which is the capital, and it is not good because once you lose the capital, you're screwed. So Hitler does, in June of 1940, take over Paris. Encircles 500,000 troops. I need to mention as well that around this time the Soviet Union annexes Lithuania, Estonia, and Latvia. So these three countries over here were annexed by the Soviet Union while this was happening. And they didn't stand a chance. Just they're Lithuanian crap. They are not strong. So, yeah, Hitler is almost gobbled up France like it was nothing. France officially falls, surrenders to Germany. They're like, okay, you're taking Paris. Hitler, they can't take him. So, in the Axis powers have completely taken over Morocco and Algeria at this point too. Egypt is still allied, but Mussolini and Hitler are going to put their troops down there in a second.
We shall fight on the beaches.
So now, Bessarabia is annexed by the Soviets.
Fight on the landing ground.
Become communist. Hitler orders plans to invade Britain. So now Hitler's like, think about it. At this point, July 1940, and keep in mind too that the Holocaust, which I wasn't even talking about. This video is more about the land annexation, but keep in mind this is all Nazi regime, and every Jewish person living in here is going to be sent to execution camps, concentration camps, and going to be executed in an inferior position to Hitler. Obviously, the Holocaust isn't what this video is about, but when you're talking about World War II, it's obviously the mass execution of Jews is obviously a major part of the story. So, yeah, it is not good what's going on here. The Soviets invade them. We're into July of 1940. Hitler is now planning to invade Britain. Now think about this. Britain is all the Allies have left besides Egypt, but Egypt doesn't do much. Britain's about all they got left. So Britain has to deal with Hitler and maybe even Stalin if Stalin gets hungry. But Stalin's probably going to want to try to take out Hitler first. So we kind of have a three-way war going on right now. Stalin's hungry for land. Hitler's hungry for land. It's basically, they are racing to take over Europe. And Britain's just like, dude, guys, chill. All right? I'm just trying to defend myself. And you took out France. So all the French troops, after they surrender, they are basically in Britain at this point. And you probably have some Danish troops and Norwegian troops and Polish and Finland people that have escaped to Britain. And all the Allied troops are in Britain in exile or just chilling here. So obviously Switzerland hangs out. Nobody does anything to Switzerland because it's Switzerland. So, and keep in mind too, Spain over here, and Portugal. You know, Portugal. Spain is being held by a dictator named Francisco Franco, who does not really want to fight, but he is a fascist dictator, just like Mussolini and Hitler. So he's like, all right, Hitler, if you need me, I'll join, but I'm not going to join the war unless I see a reason to. So he doesn't end up joining the war. He just kind of chills over there. But keep in mind that Spain is technically part of the Nazi regime anyway.
We shall fight in the
So the Battle of Britain begins with the Luftwaffe raids on the Channel shipping. So Hitler since Britain's an island, the only way they can get over there, they can't march troops in the front lines because Britain's in such a bad spot. What they have to do is either fly planes in, or or use a naval attack on the water. Now they do both of that. The Battle of Britain is a solely Air Force battle, and the British Air Force is very good, and they are able to resist and actually defeat the Germans in that battle. And then the British Royal Navy demolishes any of Hitler's attempts to try to take over Britain. He just can't do it. Hitler tries several times during World War II to take over Britain. He just can't do it.
fields and in the streets. We shall fight in the hills.
Hitler sets September 15th as the date for the official British invasion, the naval fleet, which they end up getting destroyed. So that's September. But the Battle of Britain takes place in July. That is an Air Force battle.
We shall never surrender. And if
Failure to achieve air
I do not
superiority
for a moment
results postpone the invasion of Britain. So now we're in August.
Leave
The Battle of Britain, Luftwaffe
not
attacks the UK
island
airfields.
or large
German Luftwaffe suffers losses against the Britain Royal Air
part
Force.
of it was subjugated.
Churchill's speech Never was so much owed by so many, so few. That was given then, August of 1940. So this was Britain. Just, I mean, they're hanging in there. They're all we got left. Or the Allies. They're all the Allies.
Starving in our empire.
Luftwaffe halts attacks on the airfields and begins terror bombing London instead.
Beyond the seas.
So that's how they get in. But they can't get in the British mainland. The only attacks they can launch on Britain are bombings. And that's it, which the British Royal Air Force takes them out. Hitler postpones the British invasion.
Armed and guarded by the
As
British
he says, we're just not ready. We're just not ready.
fleet.
Italian armies push towards Egypt. So Hitler's like, okay, we're going to not take out Britain right now. Mussolini, you send your troops down to Egypt and we'll take out those Allied forces down there. So Britain sends troops probably down there. The Egyptians only have 35,000 men. Mussolini's got about 100,000.
Carry on the struggle.
Not a very
Until
deadly battle down
God's
here, but
good
still.
time.
Invasion of Britain is postponed indefinitely. So Hitler's like, okay, we are just not ready to invade Britain. We're going to wait till like next year to do it. We're going to wait till like 1941 to do it. So he's like, we just can't handle Britain right now. Because they just, do that. So, but fights still going down
New
here
world.
between Italy and them. The Tripartite Act is signed by Germany, Italy, and Japan, and then the formal name Axis emerges. So this is where the Axis powers were officially formed in September of 1940. So Italy, Japan, and Germany are officially allies against Stalin and the Britain. They're all the Axis powers.
With all its power and might, steps forth to the rescue.
Romania begins aligning itself with Germany. October 1940.
The liberation of the old.
Any German invasion of Britain is postponed until spring of 1941 at the earliest. Having stalled his advance in Egypt, Mussolini decides to invade Greece instead. Hitler is angered by this decision. Hitler's like, dude, why are you invading Greece? We have a campaign down here in Egypt that you need to be dealing with, and take them out first. They're actually allied. Greece, it can wait. So Hitler was kind of mad by Mussolini's decision to invade Greece, but definitely he does it. It starts November, late October 1940. So we got about 100,000 men on this side. This is the very small Italian occupied area, with the Allies in Greece with 70,000 men. The Italian offensive in Greece is halted. The Greek counter offensive against the Italians begins. So they hold on for a little bit. Actually, Greece ends up pushing them back. Talk between Germany and the Soviet Union of a Soviet entry into the Axis. So there's talk between Stalin and Hitler to join. Imagine how much that would have changed history had the Soviet Union joined with Nazi Germany. They would have been unstoppable. They would have taken over the world. Honestly, think about it. Britain couldn't handle that. Britain on its own could not handle that. It'd be done. The war would be over. Hungary joins the Axis, so now these countries are starting to fall to Hitler. He's starting to build his huge empire down there. And then the Soviets get a little scared once this happens. Hungary joins Axis. Romania. Greece pushes them back. Both Germany and the UK perform bombing raids against each other's cities. So Britain's coming here bombing Germany. Germany's bombing Britain non-stop during this period. They're just air bombing. So if you live in a big city in Britain, like if you live in London or Manchester or Leeds or something, you better get the heck out of there, because you're going to get bombed, or Edinburgh or anything like that. And then you're in Germany in a big city, you're going to get bombed too, so you better get out of there. Actually, my great-grandmother lived in a town called Mittelstadt, Germany, and I believe they got bombed by later on the United States and probably the UK as well. So there's bombings, that Air Force battles. They just can't show naval and Air Force battles, But keep in mind that Germany and Britain are getting constantly bombed at this point too. British offensive against Italian troops in Egypt begins. Britain's trying to fight off in Greece and Egypt as much as they can. Francisco Franco rules out Spanish entry into the war, so he officially denies that he's going to enter. He's like, Spain, we're just going to stay neutral. So Spain stays neutral. 40,000 encircled in Egypt there by the Axis. The Greco-Italian Wars continues to go badly for the Italians. This was a failed campaign by Mussolini. Honestly, a bad idea. That's why Hitler did not like it. So now we're into 1941. December 1940. So 1940, if you compare it to the previous 1939, a lot has happened. Now 1941 is where stuff goes down. So here we go. Lend-Lease introduced to the U.S. Congress. The Soviet Union offered to join Axis. Hitler does not respond. Imagine what that would have done. Stalin officially offered Hitler to join the Axis powers, and he refused to respond because the Soviets kind of scared of Hitler. He's like, I don't want to lose all my soldiers, so we might as well just team up and rule the world together. But Hitler's like, nah. Soviets were defeated. So instead of invading Britain, Hitler gets his eyes on this. Which doesn't go very good for him, but you'll see here in a sec. Germany agreed to send reinforcements to Africa. Alright, the Allies were taking back some land. The Italian army suffers a terrible defeat in Africa and Egypt. German and British troops confront each other for the first time in North Africa. Bulgaria joins the Axis, falls to Hitler. German U-boats are circling Britain at this point. I mean, Greece is outnumbered and they're still winning. Yugoslavia joins the Axis, so now the entirety of Eastern Rome, Yugoslavia joined briefly, and then they're unfascist. But they're going to join back. Now they actually try to resist. They joined, and then see these other countries like Romania and Romania and Hungary and stuff. They did not even try to fight Germany. They didn't even try to fight. Like, Hitler, we're not fighting you. Yugoslavia joins briefly, and then they decide, you know what? No. So they joined, and they stopped. So now the fascist government's removed, and they decide to raise resistance, but they get swallowed up really fast because Hitler just has an amazing their strategy with the Blitzkrieg strategy where they encircle the opponent is very bad. They start to take over Greece, and Greece is now completely annexed. Allies invade Iraq to limit the Or government, and there's finally wars going on in the Middle East too. German preparations for Operation Barbarossa near complete. So Operation Barbarossa is this attack here. Germany is now, they're out of land in this area to get rid of. So now he's lining up his men. He grabs 1 million, 2 million men, 2 million men, 3 million. Look at this. Bitchy. He's ready. Oh God. Oh my God. So he's lining up his troops. He's ready to make his invasion on the Soviet Union. He's like, Stalin, I'm taking you out myself. So he's going to invade the Soviet Union right now. That's what he's doing. June 1941. Here we go. Syria and Lebanon. 2 minutes. Look at this. They're getting pushed back. Encircle them like crazy. Stalin announces the scorched earth policy. Look how deep Hitler's getting in there. German Field Marshal war against Russia had already been won. He's like, oh, they don't stand a chance. Hitler, against the advice of his general, shifts some forces to Moscow, capital. Text overlaps. They're trying to debate from the south down here. They're about even on men. 600,000 encircled there. He's getting deep. They're still pushing back Stalin. All-out German offensive towards Moscow begins. Moscow citizens flee to the city. However, Stalin stays in demand and stubborn offense, trying to take out Hitler. Red Army forces. Joseph Stalin states that 4.5 million Germans have been killed. Contemporaries. Already died in Russia. 4 or 5 million Germans have already died in Russia in a great exaggeration. Now, this is known as the Eastern Front, the Russian Front. If you ever heard, was one of the deadliest parts of the war right here. The Russian Front. Oh my God. Temperatures in Moscow drop to negative 12 degrees as both sides freeze. German troops report spotting in Kremlin spires. Alright, Stalin's got him outnumbered now. Red Army launches. Oh. Keep in mind what's going on with the date right now. For those of you who live in the United States, you know. I'll play it back a little bit. October 1941. This is the whole second half of 1941. They're just doing this. So, Stalin's going to outnumber. So now we get to December 7th, 1941. What happens December 7th, 1941?
Yesterday, December 7th.
So they're still trying to get there. December 7th, 1941. It's Franklin Roosevelt. That is when Japan attacks Pearl Harbor and gets the United States to declare war on Japan. Now we're into 1942.
41. A date which will live.
The Soviets and Germany
infamy.
will continue to just fight for that land for the rest of the year.
America was suddenly and deliberately attacked.
It's just a halt.
By naval and air forces of the Empire.
Look how much land that the Axis powers have. Hitler controls all of this land. Look at that. That's a lot. The UK and the United States are checked by vast Japanese expansion in Asia. Oh yeah, by the way, Japan itself is invading a bunch of Asian countries like the islands, Philippines, and China and stuff. Huge parts of China are getting invaded right now by Japan.
Of Japan.
Disastrous battle for the Red Army. Germans begin building up for 1942 summer offensive in the east. Hitler plans to outline the capture of Russia to seize Soviet oil fields. Stalin believes a German attack towards Moscow leaves the southern front undermanned. See, Stalin's got 5 million men. Hitler's only got 2.8 million. Almost 3 million. Hitler demands Mussolini to send more Italian troops to the Eastern Front. They're outnumbered, so Hitler's trying to get Mussolini to send more troops over there because Mussolini's still got troops fighting down in Africa, but at this point, trying to get him. Mussolini complies, sending 7 additional divisions as well as 2 already promised over there. But it's not going good for Hitler right now. He's at a stalemate right now. And Stalin, with them outnumbered and being mobilized, Hitler is not doing good. This is about where the Nazis reach their peak during the world. Everything from this point forward is just downfall for Hitler. Germany prepares its new offensive in North Africa. These troops are not going to do anything for Hitler. There are not enough men in Italy to fight off the Soviet Union. I'm just going to let you know that right now. 170,000 captured over here. Major Soviet offensives to retake Kharkov. So many people. There have been millions of casualties in the Eastern Front right now. 240,000 men. Britain and the Soviets, allies begin aerial bombardments of the German cities. The U.S. starts to bomb Germany and the UK. German Africa attacks towards Egypt. The U.S. is fighting Japan in the front, and so is in the Pacific. So is Britain. No attacks all of mine. Rushes to Stalingrad. German 6th Army rushes to the city of Stalingrad. Stalingrad is where it goes bad for Hitler. Stalingrad is not good for him. He starts to list. Now he's making good in the south. He's making great progress. Stalin orders direct 221, not a setback. Not a step back. So Hitler's getting pretty deep in. Look at this. German offensive at Caucasus seems highly lack of munitions. I can't read that. Sad that it overlaps the text though. Hitler gets pretty deep down there. But he got some stuff fighting up here. They're trying to take him in from the north. Stalin still controlled this area over here in Finland. Sweden was never invaded though. Autumn. Alright, Stalin's got about 6 million men now, and Hitler's got 3 million. They've got him double, 2 to 1. Stalin's got him. So here come in November of 1942, here comes the United States landing in Africa to try to take back Morocco. So that's the U.S. and Britain right there. Landing in Africa right here. Here comes the Americans and British. Taking back some land in Africa. Red Army launches Operation Uranus. German 6 armies encircled. We got a stalemate right here. Germans fail. Germans fail. You're in the Estonian line to Stalingrad. Luftwaffe attempts the 6th Army. However, they only managed to fight a fraction. There we go. That's Hitler right there. Red Army launches. Italian forces run by the Red Army. So now, Soviet Union is starting to push back Hitler. Romania recalls its resistance. German army now fights the Soviets, almost done. German propaganda, total war, guerrilla counterattacks, destroy the Soviet corps. Germany abandons this city. Now Stalingrad happens. I guess it's the winter of, I think it's from November 1942 to March of 1943. So Stalin now starts to push Hitler back. Germany abandons Brazil. Both German and Soviets are exhausted after the winter campaign. Allied attacks against the Axis forces in Tunisia, which is the island right there. German ordered to plan an assault. Hitler and Mussolini meet at Salzburg mostly for the purpose of increasing fated men. Hitler decides that Germany must take back the initiative to regain trust among his allies. And I'm surprised Japan didn't come in here and try to help him. German attempts at something. German attempts at evacuating forces Tunisia fail. Axis resistance in Africa begins to collapse. So the Allies have completely took back Africa. Operation Citadel, Germany attack on the Soviet Kursk salient is set for an early summer begin of 1943. However, Hitler demands the postponement to allow new tank designs to arrive. Again, 2 to 1, Stalin and Hitler. Allied bombing of German cities and industry increase intensely. Sicily is bombed in preparation for Allied landings. So the Allies, the United States, Franklin Roosevelt, president at the time, plans an invasion in Italy, and they're going to come up in the island of Sicily right here and invade Germany. They're going to invade the Nazis and go up the Italian peninsula, which is where Mussolini is. Operation Citadel commences. Allied armies land in Sicily in July of 1943. Push them back. Take it pretty easily. Red Army launches scale and exhausted troops. Mussolini is arrested and disposed as dictator of Italy. So now they arrest Mussolini in 1943, but Hitler's still safe because they grab him there. Sweden, having so, has benefited from German trade, stops all exports to the Reich. Axis forced evacuate of Sicily. The tide of the war was heavily shifted in the favor of the Allies at this point. As badly as Italy seeks peace with the Allies, German troops prepare to occupy the country. So now Hitler is not going to let Mussolini surrender to the United States and Britain. So he's going to send troops down here to fight them off. But he's also trying to fight off the Soviets at the same time. And the Soviets and the Allies are not really part of each other. So Hitler's trying to fight off the Soviets and the Americans and British at the same time. And obviously the remaining French troops and stuff like that. So this is in September 1943. Allies invade mainland Germany, or mainland Italy, take out the boot take out the island of Mussolini lost all privileges in there. German army takes possession behind the Dnieper River. The UK economy has fully mobilized. 22 million British men and women are working with the war effort. George VI is his king at the time, and he's very good, to say the least. Allies forces in Italy come to halt elements of the Soviets in the Dnieper River. Desperate German attacks fail to push the Soviets back. Kiev, which is now Ukraine, Kiev is liberated by the Soviets. Anti-German resistance in Italy increases. German counterattacks against Soviet Dnieper crossing is unsuccessful. Stalin has 6 million men on the Eastern Front, and Hitler's got 2 million. Heavy bombing in Berlin happened, which is the capital of Germany. Main victims of the Allied bombing campaign seek civilians in their industry to keep up productive German industry. Soviet offensive in the west of Kiev drives Germans into a retreat. Allied planners believe that Normandy, only lightly defended by the Germans, would make an optimal target for a landing. So Britain and the United States are trying to plan out an attack, which eventually be called Operation Overlord. This is in January of 1944. They decide to invade Germany from the west and land around here in France. Try to take France back with Operation Overlord, which eventually becomes the Battle of Normandy. And if you've seen my video, I'll put it in the end screen, maybe in the cards. I did a video showing it was a ship on tour from Normandy, so you can check that out. It was pretty cool. So there we go. So the Soviets are making good ground. Soviet Stalins in Kiev split the army group south from the remaining front. Getting deep in there now, almost to that area. Soviets began planning large-scale offensive in German Army Corps. Plans for the invasion of France, Operation Overlord, is confirmed by Britain and the United States. Finnish diplomats arrive in Moscow to negotiate peace terms with the Soviets. And now Finland is Nazi-controlled at this point, too. Hitler controls that. Hitler, anticipating an Allied invasion in France, he knows now. He's like, okay, I feel like the Allies are probably going to attack France. Demands all newly formed units to be sent west. But he's still trying to fight off the Soviets from the east and having a horrible... He's been dealing with it for like 2 years, and he's doing horribly against that. And you have the Allies. He's lost all his territory in Africa and the Middle East, and he's dealing with an invasion in Italy too. It's not looking good. Furthermore, with Soviet defenses towards Romania, he shifts his troops to army in the center of the south. Leads the German Central Front undermanned, vulnerable for future attacks. Stalin proposes harsh demands to the Finnish delegation. They refuse his terms. Keep in mind that throughout this entire war, almost 80 million people have lost their lives. As Soviet troops enter Romania, anti-Axis sentiment grows within the country. Vast Ally buildup in Britain is prepared for the Operation Overlord. This is April 1944. They launched the attack on June 6th. Still trying to find him on the Eastern Front. Despite heavy bombing, German railway production sees new heights. This is Dwight D. Eisenhower.
Soldiers, sailors, and airmen of the Allied
This was probably recorded later, by the way. This was probably not recorded in 1944.
expedition
The Allies start to prepare for their Operation Overlord in Normandy. Normandy is this region of France here. More than 130 Allied political leaders and military officers began the briefings on D-Day.
about to embark upon the great
The battle for Monte Cassino ends the Allied victory. Germany retreats in Italy. That's one of these battles.
toward which we have driven these many months. The eyes of
Alright, the Allies have Hitler outnumbered or have Mussolini. Mussolini's been captured. Have Hitler, the Nazis, the Axis outnumbered in the Italian peninsula. D-Day, the Allies land in Normandy, France, June 6th, 1944. They land. It takes them a while. June 9th when Herbert Schaus gets there. Shout-outs to him, my great-grandfather.
of liberty-loving
The Germans scramble for an improvised defense.
people every
Now, it takes a while. Germany kind of gets back. They have a decent, I'm not going to say it was amazing, but they have a decent fortified area on the coast.
Everywhere. March with you.
It takes the U.S. and Britain a little bit to get in there.
In company with our brave allies and brothers in arms.
Soviet operation. So the mistakes that the Axis made was obviously invading Greece. That was stupid. And obviously Japan bombing Pearl Harbor, because if they wouldn't have done that, there would have been no Normandy invasion, because Britain probably couldn't have done it on their own. So they made bad decisions.
Other front.
And those weren't Hitler's fault. That was Mussolini and Hideki Tojo that did that. Hirohito had nothing to do with the Pearl Harbor invasion. That was or the Pearl Harbor attack. That was completely the military. They didn't know. The Emperor did not want to do it. So now we're about to 7 million men on the Eastern Front. Look how far the Soviets, and we have 1 million men on the French coast.
German war machine. The elimination of Nazi tyranny.
The Soviets are trying to push Germany back into Germany.
Of Europe. And security for ourselves in a
the
free
Nazis
world.
will do this. Plot to, excuse what. Allies break out Normandy. German troops. Allies break through the German front line in August 1944. Allied landing in southern France. Romania capitulates. Paris is liberated. Hitler knows it's not going good. Oh man. Now the Soviets are taking back this. These countries start to become communist now. And then these are starting to become capitalist, which eventually turns into the Cold War because of how the Cold War forms on how they take back from Hitler. So now France is completely back in Allied control. Finland signs the peace with Moscow, getting rid of the Nazis there. Just into the Western Front. So now we're in October 1944. Hitler's trying to push them back there. The French line. Soviets drive Budapest, Hungary. Battle of Hürtgen Forest. Hitler demands planning a new offensive against the Western Allies. Hitler's basically sending old men and disabled people at this point onto the... He's sending everything else he's got at this point. But it's not going to do any good for him. Germans attack, starting the Battle of the Bulge, which was a disaster for Hitler. Budapest surrounded, and Hungary. So this is where Hitler starts to escape to his bunker about this point, January 1945. He escapes to his bunker because he knows he's going to get defeated. Conference is held, the Munich Conference. Battle of Budapest with Soviet victory. Not looking good for the Nazis at all. The German effort towards protecting Berlin against the Soviet threat. So Berlin is even falling. Now Hitler has lost even German territory. Small German offensive in Hungary ends with another Soviet victory. Allies enter Germany, German territory. The Allies move to encircle the industrial Germans. Western Allies slow their advance to allow the Red Army to take Berlin. So this is where Franklin Roosevelt dies from a cerebral hemorrhage, I think, on April 12th. So that sucks. Now Truman's in the war, and then he bombs Japan later down the line to end the war in the Pacific. Soviet captures Vienna. So now they execute Mussolini around this time. So Mussolini gets executed, and Hitler, no one knows what happens to him. You got 4 million men on this side, about 7 million on this side. And by April 28th, Mussolini's executed. Berlin is surrounded, and then Hitler dies April 30th. So now they're completely encircled, and bam, that is the end of the European theater. Oh, I want to go back. So here we go. So this sets the stage for the Cold War now, which I kind of want to talk about. So I highly recommend you go check this guy's channel out because it's pretty cool. But anyway. This is all communist now. And Stalin's going to try to expand his communist regime. And actually he ends up expanding it to China, which becomes communist in 1949. It's still a state. Cuba, which starts the Cold War. And then this part here, you get the Berlin Wall, which goes right here. This is known as the, Winston Churchill called it the, shoot, I don't really remember from history class last year. I'm trying to remember what it was called. Oh, God, what was it? Oh, that term that was used to the line. Shoot, what was it called? The Cold War. I don't remember what it was called, but there's a line, an imaginary line, that divides the capitalist and this part. So the United States aids this part of Europe, Believe it or not, though, that doesn't mean dictators are done, because Francisco Franco, I think, controls Spain until like the 1970s when he dies, but then they bring back the Bourbons and we're all good. Obviously, Stalin dies, I think, in 1953, and then the Soviet Union lasts all the way until 1991, and then we get modern-day Russia when it splits. And then we get Vladimir Putin later down the line, which now is doing stuff. So that's how that is, and that's World War II. And by the way, in the Pacific Front, I wonder if he's got a video on that. That'd be kind of interesting to check out too. It's not until August of 1945 that Harry Truman launches the nuclear bombs on Japan, ending the war officially in Japan. They surrender on September 2nd of 1945, ending World War II. So with that little video, oh, not little, it's a pretty long one. With that video, I want to thank you guys for watching. Be sure to comment, like, subscribe, and let me know what you thought about this. If you want to see me do this in other wars, maybe I could do this on World War I, or the Civil War, or even the American Revolution, or something like that. Maybe the 100 Years' War, something even in the Middle Ages. So, or maybe even something going back to like the Persian times, of Alexander the Great's invasions. I mean, whatever you want, whatever you guys want to see, let me know. If you guys want to see anything else like this, and be sure to comment, like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye. Whack.